listening to Doing Time, Talking Crime, a podcast that showcases the research currently being conducted at the Max Planck Institute for the Study of Crime, Security and Law in Freiburg, Germany. My name is Christopher Murphy, and I'll be sitting down with researchers to talk about their projects, the various methods they use, and how their findings have impacted legal, criminological and psychological research in Germany and abroad. All this and more on Doing Time, Talking Crime. Well, thank you very much for tuning in to the second episode of Doing Time, Talking Crime. It's great to have you here with us today. And on today's episode, we'll once again be talking about virtual reality. This time, though, we'll be discussing a study at the Institute called the Virtual Burglary Project, and looking at how virtual reality can be used as a tool to measure decision-making and perception processes in a computer-generated environment. And we'll also be looking at the challenges involved in making a seamless virtual world. To do so, I'm joined in the studio by not one, but two researchers today from the Institute's Department of Criminology. Seeing as it's the second episode, I thought we'd celebrate in style and have two guests. So my first guest is Dr. Dominik Gerstner. Dominik hails from the southern German town of Rottweil, which I believe is most famous for the guard dogs, the dreaded Rottweiler. Dominik has a background in sociology and is currently a postdoc at the Institute. His PhD thesis was on juvenile delinquency, and he is an expert in the spatial distribution of crime. Welcome to the program, Dominik.
Thanks.
My second guest is Dr. Peter Wozniak. Peter is originally from Karlsruhe, has a background in computer programming, 3D immersive graphics and the use of augmented and virtual reality. He obtained his PhD from the University of Strasbourg in France and is currently the head of the Institute's Virtual Reality Lab. And as Dominik put it before the program, whilst it's the researcher's job to come up with ideas, it's up to Peter to actually make the virtual reality magic happen. So welcome to you too, Peter.
Hi, Chris. Pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Okay, well, Dominik, perhaps we'll start with you. Before delving into the methods involved in the Virtual Burglary Project, can you take a few minutes to maybe tell us what exactly the project's about and what you hope to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, the basic idea of the project is to investigate the decision-making and perception processes of different types of offenders. In this case, basically burglars. And what we want to achieve is to gain new insights into the kind of a spontaneous behavior of burglars.
Okay.
Yeah.
And based, this has been researched before, obviously, maybe with pen and paper questionnaires and the like. What do you expect to find?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there was a lot of research about burglary during the past years, and so previous research is mainly based on interviews or on official records about burglary events. But in this kind of research, there's usually always only a little information about the offenders and their actual decision-making behavior. And especially for the research about burglary or also the prevention of burglary, and of course other offenses, it's important to develop a deeper understanding how offenders act or decide during the act of crime.
Oh, okay, because you can only ask after the act, so to say.
Exactly, yeah. Okay. And one goal of our studies is to study the burglars in action.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is where the advantages of virtual reality come into play, because you cannot take an incarcerated burglar to a neighborhood and ask him to burgle it.
No. It could lead to legal problems and ramifications.
Definitely, yeah. But you can take a virtual neighborhood into the prison, and you can let that virtual neighborhood
be burgled. Okay.
Exactly.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that would tie into my next question then. You've talked a little bit about the aims now, but you're creating a virtual neighborhood or a virtual world. Maybe tell the listeners what does that look like, this virtual world?
Yeah, I mean, that depends on the type of study. And so the study we are basically running or planning is it's just a neighborhood where you can walk around.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about, I think, 700 meters in length.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the study participants can freely roam around, but there were also other studies where participants can choose a certain house and go into that house and burgle different items.
Oh, that's
yeah.
okay. And it is that because I guess at the end of the day, the crux that you're looking for is seeing how competent a burglar is and what a burglar looks at, what triggers maybe a burglar. How do you measure this competency? Is it can they go into a house? Can they jimmy open a window? Can they steal a radio for 100 points, an Xbox for 1,000 points? How will you measure this?
Yeah, we had. I mean, we also know. We also have this information from, so to say, real life. Yeah, because from the official police records, we know what burglars usually take with them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And
as in equipment.
Equipment. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, not the equipment, but also the what they steal. What items they steal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we know that, for example, professional burglars, they won't steal a large TV. Yeah.
Oh, okay. They go for
they
small,
will steal smaller, valuable items.
Jewelry,
for example. Yeah, and they know exactly how to find them or where to find them. And so in former studies with using virtual reality, it was assessed how different students and professional burglars act during the actual
when
act
they're
of
actually
crime. Yeah?
in a house, what they look for. And these have been virtual reality studies as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And there was also a study which compared the virtual environment setting with a real house.
Mm-hmm.
And it was shown that virtual reality can be used instead of that real house. And the results were basically the same, yeah.
Okay.
So, but in our study, it's a little bit different. So we have the hypothesis that burglaries are always on, yeah, so to say.
Burglars are always on.
Yeah, they are in a permanent scouting process.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you can in a study, for example, you can tell him, okay, please go through that neighborhood and scout that neighborhood as if you want to commit a burglary there later. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that's what you will tell them. That's you say go in and scout around.
Yeah, not at the moment. At the moment, it becomes a little bit more sophisticated, yeah, because we also use eye tracking technology in our recent study, and the idea is, as I already said, that burglars are in a permanent scouting process. So, what we want to test or what we want to see if burglars look at different things, yeah. So we will compare a sample with burglars and a kind of a community sample with just
people from the community.
Yeah, exactly. And what we want, the good thing with the virtual environments is that you can easily you can manipulate these environments. Yeah, you can build in so-called Easter eggs. Yeah, and.
What's an Easter egg exactly?
An Easter egg that would be.
I have heard of the term in a computer game, but you could build something that a burglar should see, whereas maybe someone else won't see, or.
Yeah, I mean, this might be just small items, yeah, or maybe also larger items like a ladder, yeah, lying in the garden. And the idea is that the burglars will, on the one hand, they will detect such items. More frequent than people from the community sample. But they all, for example, if there is an Easter egg on a house, like an alarm system, they also might look longer at that house, yeah? Because an alarm system, usually it can deter burglars, but it can also attract burglars.
Oh.
Because when you have an alarm system, you will also have more valuable items in your house. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you have an alarm system.
Good tip for our listeners here. No, I don't have an alarm system. Peter,
So
do you have
you
an
don't
alarm
have any?
system?
No.
Okay, right. So these are these Easter eggs you could build in. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But so from what I gather, though, like we were chatting before, the program that in this case, though, it's not I can't walk into a house. I can't try a door handle or anything.
No.
No, it's simply scouting, scanning.
No, yeah, it's just the participants, they will be advised to walk through the neighborhood, and their task is to assess the neighborhood if it's a good place to live there. Yeah.
I see. Okay,
Yeah,
and then you look at the different samples, how they react. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Can you do a daytime, nighttime cycle? Is that possible with virtual reality? I mean, you can switch it around as you please, or
Yeah, I mean, it has to be programmed. Yeah, you can talk with Peter about that. But I mean, for example, we have collaboration with a university in the Netherlands, and they use basically the same environment like we do, and during nighttime. Yeah,
okay.
and but this study deals more about deterrent of effects. Yeah,
Okay.
What kind of measures can deter burglars? Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. I was reading up about like a deterrent effect is the guardian. Obviously, that seems to be a common kind of term that's used. What or who is a guardian? Is a Rottweiler a guardian?
A Rottweiler
a good
dog
guardian?
might be is definitely a good guardian. Yeah. So, yeah, we haven't implemented such a dog in our studies yet, but
It's never too late.
maybe
At least not yet.
not yet. Yeah.
But the world is populated. This environment, this neighbourhood, it's popular. You can walk
So,
in. There are people around there, right?
Our neighborhood. So in the actual study, the world is populated. Yeah, and but there are no special guardians. Yeah, because our study is not about deterrence. We had a former study, which was carried out in the Netherlands, was about guardianship. Yeah, and there was a guardian was used. I'm actually working with that data. And
what was the guardian in that?
Yeah, it was just a man, and he was coming out of his house with a phone in his hand. He was involved in a phone call, and there was a control condition without the guardian, and then there were 3 experimental conditions. The guardian was just talking on his phone. In the second condition, the guardian looked at the participant. And in the third condition, the guardian, he stopped the phone call and said, "Hey, what you're doing, can I help you?" In that study, it was shown that there was a deterrent effect of the guardian, but
in the neighborhood in general, or in that house that they would then
in the neighborhood in general, or maybe it's not in the neighborhood in general, but for the whole scouting process.
Okay. But in your study, then it's not so much about guardians; it's more about the simple always-on.
Exactly.
Question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're listening to Doing Time, Talking Crime, a podcast by the Max Planck Institute for the Study of Crime, Security and Law. Well, we've heard now from Dominik about the study, so it's probably time to turn to you, Peter, and to talk about how you've created this virtual neighborhood. Do you have to program from scratch? Are you using certain engines, gaming engines, to do so?
Well, with this particular virtual environment, basically, we have been using the existing neighborhood from another project. But my task was to make some slight alterations. Part of the work has been done by the original programmer from the Netherlands. And now we had to change a little bit the graphics, to adapt a little bit to our needs. We added some more objects to the virtual environment.
Houses, cars, parks.
Yeah, parks.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically just small assets, nothing much. So the basic framework of the neighborhood was already existing for this project. But usually you have to build something up from the ground. Yes, like it's not something existing. But of course, you can save time if you use existing 3D models, audio recordings for the sounds of the neighborhood, like wind or cars passing by. You can basically just rely on existing assets and put them all together. And
when you say existing assets, these are open source assets, or does the institute have to purchase a suite?
Basically, a mix of both, but usually you have to buy it.
Okay.
Like there's we are using the Unity game engine for that project, and there's a so-called asset store where other people can just put in all the things of functionality, like scripts, which helps you to come up with the locomotion system, or you can use 3D models of the buildings, of the avatars walking through the neighborhood, and also the sounds. Like there's plenty of things you can just buy. Some of them are also for free, but usually they cost something like $10 or $50 or $200, depends on the...
So if you're having, for instance, difficulties with a certain asset, you can look around what's in the shop, maybe we can purchase that.
Exactly, and it helps to save time. Otherwise you have to remodel things from the ground up, which takes a lot of time and expertise to do though. Also to come up with audio recordings you need. Usually you find something on the internet, like there's plenty of databases. Some of them have free stuff, some others you have to pay for.
Okay, right, I see. I guess I have a question, because you've done several test runs of the neighborhood at the Institute, several versions that we've gone through, and you've got employees to try it out. I think I tried one of the earlier runs, and I was pretty taken aback because I've been playing computer games since I was 6-7 years old, Bubble Bobble and Golden Axe and whatnot, and then I put on this. I was pretty sure of myself that it was going to be no problem, so I popped on the headset and kind of entered the virtual world, and I got really sick. I had this Cybersickness. That's right. I think that's what Dominik, who did the test, he referred to it as, and it seems I wasn't alone. I guess, could you tell us maybe what segment of the population, or at least your test, suffered from cybersickness, and what you can then do, what methods to kind of alleviate it or make it more of a smooth process?
I think I can't give you exact numbers. I think Dominik maybe has the numbers still on his head. How many people were becoming sick with our virtual environment?
From your sample at the Institute?
What I can say is that from our sample of the Institute, I mean, maybe half of the participants got sick.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, you were one of the worst, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I clearly have to
I really didn't expect that,
skills.
But, so it was really a big problem, and I mean, Peter let the magic happen and implemented some stuff. And we are already running our community sample, and now we have about 40 participants, and only one of them got sick. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. And what was the magic you worked? What were some of the major steps that you took that changed the?
Yeah, it's difficult because usually cybersickness is a form of motion sickness. Like your brain has to process conflicting sensory information. Basically, you see yourself moving through the neighborhood because we use a gamepad for the locomotion.
Yes.
And while you're sitting in a chair, so your body tells you you're not moving. So there's clearly a conflict, and people become sick. Your brain reacts with sickness, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
And it depends on your personal predisposition.
Predisposition.
How much you will experience that. And the best thing, of course, is just to not to expose people with this conflicting sensory information. So for our neighborhood, that would mean you basically would be restrained to a patch of your physical environment where you can freely move in a natural way.
You can actually walk around in a natural way.
But that, of course, limits your freedom in the neighborhood. So you have to use some kind of virtual locomotion technique.
Okay.
And we decided, or basically the original developer decided to use a gamepad for that. And that gives you this impression like you're sliding on rails through the neighborhood.
Yes, yeah. So that was the feeling I had as well. This sliding whilst being seated.
and that is something we tried to improve a little bit. I've just basically changed the lighting of the neighborhood and the
contrast,
the contrast has been reduced. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit dimmer. It's not that bright anymore. You have less of harsh contrast with the shadows.
Okay.
I replaced the textures of the street, so you have less optical. How to say? The detail of the street is how to say?
Less vomit-inducing.
Less vomit-inducing. You can describe it as that. Basically, the idea was to...
Is it more texture or less texture?
Less texture,
Less texture,
Like
okay.
we switched from a brick texture to an asphalt texture, which gives your eyes less sensory input. So you don't see that movement in your peripheral vision, field of vision.
Okay. Yeah.
And we also had the problem mostly coming up with the Cybersickness when people were rotating with the analog stick on the gamepad. You could smoothly rotate while sitting in a chair.
Right.
And that is where most people become sick or felt unpleasant with that. So we just switched from the smooth rotation to a snap turn rotation.
Okay, so just less motion in general then.
Exactly.
Okay.
Basically switch from one position in orientation to another one by pressing some button.
Press left twice and I've turned around.
Yeah.
Then. Okay, right.
By a certain degree.
Yeah. Okay.
Get a new picture.
Yeah, I see, yeah.
So you don't have this continuous motion which induces the cybersickness.
Because I know virtual reality has been used a lot, varying success, although in the gaming industry as well. How do they deal with it, the issue? Because you're also seated there, generally at home.
It's difficult to explain because there's different techniques. From my experience, it's always good to not to use this kind of locomotion techniques for virtual environments.
To not use a joypad
exactly
to move.
Yeah, but better to use some kind of a teleportation system where basically you can jump from one position in virtual environment to another one by having some kind of...
Is that where you kind of aim ahead and then jump?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
but that wasn't feasible in the current study?
It would be
very quick scouting then.
It would be possible to use that, but the decision has been made to use a gamepad in the beginning, so we stick to that decision.
Sure.
But we have kept this option for future projects.
Future projects, absolutely. Okay, right.
And then again, natural motion, you have to match the virtual motion in the VR with the physical motion, then you don't come up with the cybersickness. And you have to make sure the system is running very smoothly. You have to keep up the frame rate. The render times per frame should be as low as possible. Otherwise, you risk also cybersickness.
Okay. And I mean, you obviously in using this, this has to be a mobile unit, though. You have to be able to take it in possibly into a prison, for instance. It is small enough to transport, or how does one do that? Can you run it from a laptop and then?
Yeah, laptop it is. You basically buy a good gaming laptop with a good gaming hardware. I mean, you can get ones with external GPUs and connect the headset to that. So it should be possible to have some kind of mobile setup, but of course you have always this hardware like the headsets, the tracking system, the computer, everything.
Okay, But in this case, the hardware it's a headset, goggles, and a gamepad.
No, it's a headset, the tracking system, which helps you to track the position of the helmet in physical space. So
that's something you have to bring. That's installed outside. That's
exactly.
You're not wearing, the participant's not wearing that. Okay.
You have to install that in the room. Basically, put up some tripods, place the tracking system on that, and then of course the computer.
Okay.
Which connects to the headset.
Oh. All right.
So that's not really mobile.
no, not overly mobile. Okay.
Yeah. I know there's newer headsets like the very mobile headsets from Oculus, from Facebook.
Yes.
They have like the tracking built in. So basically the headsets have a couple of cameras built in, and they can use the surround physical environment to do the tracking within the device itself.
Okay.
But you will be limited to the hardware of this mobile device.
Okay. Right, because you're running would you call it open source, or like when you say you're limited to the hardware of the device, you couldn't use your program with the Oculus headset, or?
No. I mean, you can of course create your own applications. This device is usually based on Android. Okay. So this operating system is kind of open source, but you're limited in terms of performance. Like the built-in CPUs and GPUs are limited compared to a regular computer, which is much more.
Okay, so there's more upgrading options then when you have your own computer rather than a headset that an all-in-one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Dominik, I guess we kind of have to wrap things up now, so I'm going to have a quick question and answer with you.
All right.
About the project's current state of play. Question 1 is, how many subjects are you planning on having?
Yeah, it's always a good question. As much as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so the idea is that we get about 100 people in our community sample and 100 people in prison, or maybe more. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, is that considered a large sample from a virtual reality study?
It's a large sample for a virtual reality study. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What age will they be? Question 2.
So we will only have males aged from 23 up to open end.
Okay.
No, but maybe 60 or something like that. Yeah.
And that was going to be question 3, male or female. Why only males?
Yeah, I mean, it's also interesting to investigate criminal behavior of females. But I mean, it's more for practical reasons because I mean, we have to get access to the prisons, and usually we have prisons for males and prisons for females, and it's much more easier to only focus on one.
Right, I say
gender.
one at a time.
Yeah.
But everything you're doing could obviously be done in a female sample, female prison.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Question 4: the timeline and the next steps.
Yeah, I mean, the community sample is already in progress. I mean, due to all the corona regulations, it's problematic to run our study in prisons. So
being allowed access.
Yeah. And so I cannot. I mean, we will have our community sample finished soon, but I cannot give any information about the prison sample. Yeah.
Okay, so that's still you. But you have.
It's still in progress.
You've contacted prisons and you're working with them.
Yeah.
Okay. Peter, my last question for you. How many more lines of code do you have to write? Is it 100, 1,000 or 100,000?
I have no idea. At least for the Virtual Burglary Project, probably none.
Okay.
Unless we decide to come up with something new.
I see. Okay.
But for the current project, basically the work is done.
Right. So you've worked your magic and you've handed it off now back to the researchers.
Yeah, I shifted my my how to say
your focus
my
elsewhere.
Focus to another project now.
Oh, okay. Perhaps you can come on next time and talk about that.
Sure.
There are a lot of other projects in the pipeline, so Peter will have.
Oh, wonderful.
Won't run out of work.
Wonderful. Okay. Good to hear. Well, that's probably about all we have time for today. So thank you very much to my guests, Dominik Gerstner and Peter Wozniak. I'd say very best of luck for the Virtual Burglary Project and the fight against cybersickness in general. Thank you. Thank you for listening to today's program. If you would like to hear additional podcasts or learn more about our research, please visit our website at www.csl.mpg.de.